Good morning and welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by our friends at the Get Go Cafe and Market, where they are now doing curbside delivery, meaning you just order whatever you want on your app. It's actually the Giant Eagle app. And you go in there and you order it, and they actually just bring it out to your vehicle. Pretty convenient.
That's two DK apps that we're going to be plugging here.
That's right, pal. Let's talk a little bit of baseball because, it is the third week of May, and it feels like we should be talking about baseball. The Pirates got some bad news on Wednesday that Kevin Kramer underwent hip surgery. It's not something that's going to devastate the roster, to put it mildly. However, it brings to mind the outfield depth that they don't have, at least in my estimation. I see this team as being Gregory Polanco, Brian Reynolds on the corners, Gerard Dyson at least capable of a terrific defensive presence in center field, but obviously not much at the plate. Guillermo Heredia. What am I missing here?
Jason Martin would be the
Jason
wild card.
Martin. I mean, Jose Osuna can play out there too.
Maybe Socrates Brito is part of that taxi squad if you really want to stretch things. But yeah, it's thin, especially if there is a designated hitter. And the Pirates, they aren't necessarily going to go with just one guy, Shelton said. But you have to imagine that Gregory Polanco would get a lot of starts at DH, to keep him fresh, keep him out of the field. I know this last injury was a base running injury, but, he's had problems, gotten bumps and bruises from the field. You got to keep him upright. So, yeah, the outfield depth isn't really that deep right now. Kramer is going to be part of that depth. If he wasn't going to be part of the 30-man, he was going to be part of the taxi squad. He would have gotten some time at some point. So, yeah, they don't exactly have a lot of depth. And even though Kramer hasn't done a lot in the majors, he was depth.
One question that you and I asked of Ben Cherington, and this now feels like forever ago since we did it face-to-face down in Bradenton, was about his backup center fielder, whether or not that could be Reynolds. And he expressed, you'll recall, some confidence in that. But who really is the backup center fielder? Gerard Dyson's 35 years old. He's not going to be going out there every day, let alone doubleheaders. Who's the other center fielder? Is it Reynolds, just like on off days? Is it Heredia? What is it?
It was based off of what I saw in Bradenton. It was Heredia because Reynolds just stuck in left field the entire time. And Heredia is fast enough. He can play the position, well enough, not be an everyday player, but, fill in there as a backup. But, yeah, I mean, center field especially is going to be interesting because Jason Martin is another one of those guys who could fill in for center field, but, he definitely profiles better in the corners.
It's not exciting, is it? This outfield group. I mean, other than Reynolds, and whatever you think or hope or whatever, you can get from Polanco when he's at his best. He's obviously an elite player, but he's not at his best all that often.
No, I mean, that's the reason why they signed Dyson. They really don't have a center fielder. They don't have one, really in the minor leagues ready to go. I mean, the closest guy is Swaggerty, and even then, it's kind of a question of how good a prospect is he. At best case scenario, he's 2 years away. So it's something that they're going to have to address either by signing more guys to one-year deals like they did with Gerard Dyson until they have someone ready to go in center field, or maybe you trade for a guy.
Yeah, maybe. All right, you brought up the DH. I'm not going to let you slide that easily. You just casually threw out there that Polanco could be the DH. That hadn't even occurred to me. I could see the benefits to it, though. I mean, you do have a guy who's had some trouble staying on the field. You would let him focus just on his work at the plate, which, as I just mentioned, can be elite. He can be one of the more productive corner outfielders from an offensive standpoint in the National League when he's right. Who else would be in that mix?
Josh Bell would be the next obvious example, I think, because even though I have, praised that he's good at picking throws out of the dirt, and he did a lot of work this offseason to, rework his throwing mechanics, be able to turn that 3-6-3 double play. He's not a very good defender, in the grand scheme of things. And whenever you look at someone like Will Craig, who is behind him, who is a Gold Glove winning, first baseman in AAA, that provides value, especially in that defense.
Yeah, not to mention Craig. I mean, obviously comes with the pop
Mhm.
that he showed in the International League, albeit with the spiked ball and everything else. Here, he still hit his share of home runs in Indianapolis. Here's a crazy one. Depending on how these rosters shake up, what if Jose Osuna was your DH and Brian Hayes was the starting third baseman?
It's a possibility. I mean, you could also throw Moran, I think, into that DH mix if you start.
No, of course, yeah,
Yeah.
left, right, and whatever else here. But I'm just saying, now all of a sudden, to what your point is you're using the DH position to address defense as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's where the Pirates would actually get the most value out of the designated hitter because, it's Josh Bell at first base. Okay, now he's DH and you got a Gold Glover there. Brian Hayes now has a chance to start at third base. There's a minor league Gold Glover there. If you want to get really crazy about it, Cole Tucker's going to have to be one of those 30 guys because you can't have him sit on his
right.
the entire year. Maybe Kevin Newman gets some reps at DH. I mean, he's fine defensively at shortstop, but that would give Cole Tucker playing time also. That would be Cole Tucker, Adam Frazier would be one of the better defensive middle infields in baseball.
Yikes.
And then whenever you mix in Gerard Dyson in center and Jacob Stallings behind the plate, that is a really strong up the middle defense.
Man, okay, you're pushing it here because that I don't know. There's just something. There's something that feels above the other positions when it comes to shortstop, and I'm picturing just telling your shortstop to go and have a seat and be the DH would be kind of odd. But I see what you're saying here. I'm more interested in what you just said about valuing defense as it applies to DH. Is there any substance to that? Is there any meat to that? Because when people think of the DH, they just think of one thing, which is who am I going to slot fourth in my batting order, and then everything else just falls wherever it does.
I mean, if you think of, DH in general, if I name a DH from the last 20 years of baseball.
No, because I don't follow the American League.
You can't even throw David Ortiz for the sake of the exercise.
Sorry.
Travis Hafner, Nelson Cruz, guys who can't field, but they can hit. I mean, that's what.
Okay, yeah, well, Travis Hafner is somebody, yeah, that makes sense. But people do that. Like there's people now that whenever they see somebody who comes up and hits at an even ordinary level but can't field, the reflexive response is, oh, he can just send him to the AL and he can be a DH. That's not how it works. You have to be an extraordinary hitter to be a DH.
Ideally, yes, but I mean, there are only 5 really good DHs in baseball in general.
Once you get rid of the Nelson Cruz, the AL at all.
The Nelson Cruz, the JD Martinez, there's a steep drop off that comes after that.
Well, where the Pirates are concerned, I wouldn't mind seeing Josh Bell have some reps there, but I still want him on the field. There's still something about that mindset where you got to be out there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and there's actually, I mean, data that backs up that people who field end up hitting better than those who just hit because you're involved in the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like I said, Shelton said, we're not going to have a Travis Hafner type deal where one guy just is entrenched in the DH spot. Honestly, it might be better off just to use as a way to keep guys rested. Like, okay, Josh Bell's going to DH today, Gregory Polanco the next day, Colin Moran the next day. Just it's a rotating DH,
or to manage whatever double headers might end up coming to pass in this
Exactly.
schedule that we're still waiting on. The people who run Major League Baseball, the people who participate in Major League Baseball can't possibly be dumb enough to let a season go by while all of the other sports continue, can they?
Oh man, don't ask me a question with is Rob Manfred dumb enough to blank?
Well, no, I threw in the players too.
I mean, there's blame to go around here. Yeah,
there is.
Yeah. But
are they dumb enough?
I hope they aren't in the grand scheme of things, because this would be detrimental. This would be worse than 1994-95, because first of all, you're going to go 17 months without a game between the end of the World Series in 2019 to opening day 2021. That could kill any sport. in the grand scheme of things. And quite frankly, hockey never really recovered from that '04 strike that ended up happening.
They did, Alex. It took some time,
And not
though. You're
compared
right.
to
Yeah.
how the NBA took off in the same time
Yeah.
frame, though.
I know that 94 in baseball is probably the best parallel here because
Mm-hmm.
the strike happened. It happened in mid-season. It cost Montreal a World Series.
In a franchise.
It cost. I was going to say it ultimately ended up costing Montreal the franchise. The Expos win the World Series. The whole course of everything changes as far as that goes. And it took. I've seen this. This is an actual figure, but that baseball attendance in general, average game attendance, didn't get back to its pre-1994 levels for another 12 years, and that was even despite the boost of the steroids era and everything else that Major League Baseball and Bud Selig allowed to go on in a desperate attempt to get people back. This, Alex, this is so much worse. This
is dumber.
This is so much dumber. This is people dropping dead, losing their jobs and everything else, and then the owners and players not being able to figure out how to divide a pool of what essentially would still be roughly $5 to $6 billion. That can't happen. Baseball is not in the position that it was even in '94 in terms of popularity in our country. Certainly not among the younger generation. And like you say, for it to just disappear, but on these terms, are you kidding?
Yeah, and as bad as it would be, it's not that much better if you end up getting a season and then the Blake Snells, the Clayton Kershaws, the Mike Trouts, they just don't show up and they're replaced with replacement
And they
level
talk
guys.
and they say the stupid things that Blake Snell said. I
Yeah.
just I can't
But
wrap
in the
my head
grand
around
scheme
it.
of things, if Clayton Kershaw, who's scheduled to make $30 million this year,
Mm-hmm.
it works out that, okay, you'll make 7, and you're also going to be, subjected to all these tests. You're going to have these personal health risks. You're going to potentially put your family at risk. You're like this laundry list of things. Like, you know what? This isn't worth, $7 million whenever I've got, 30 million come for the next
But
couple
yeah,
years.
I could see guys like Kershaw and others who've complained. I could see them sitting out. I don't think for one second, not for one second, that any aspect of this debate has anything to do with the players worrying about their safety or inconvenience or anything. This is all about money.
I'll
And
disagree with that. There are safety concerns also. Major League Baseball
no,
wouldn't be saying we're going to do
no, no, no,
10,000 tests a week.
no, no, no. The concerns are real. I'm not saying that. I mean, the actual issue is real. I'm saying that if they agreed on money, they'd come back. That's it. I don't think you'd have other things that would. Okay, well, hang on a second. Now that we've settled the money, let's do this. I just don't see that as being a thing. I think that what you're going to see happen out of this is probably deferred money. Honestly, that's the only thing. If you have an entire league of Bobby Bonilla's, so be it. Where you just say, look, we can't pay this. You don't have to guess as to whether or not revenues are lower. Just look around at the empty stadium. So let's figure out a way to get you this money on a per game basis that runs true to your original contracts. Seem reasonable?
I mean, that's what they're going to do with the draft this year. They give a little
Mm-hmm.
bit up front, and then the rest is deferred for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
The only way I could see that deferral really working, though, is it can't actually be Bobby Bonilla. They got to have that money
30
within,
years. Yeah.
I know it's a joke. It's the example. They got to have that money within 2 years. I would say.
But the thing the players have to understand is that the money is still going to get paid. And when it does, it's going to be in their budgets, and they're going to take that money away from future players. And
exactly. That's why that money has to be paid up front, because you don't want.
But it can't
5
be,
years,
Alex. They don't have it.
Not up front, but within a year or two, go through, because if it's 10 years down the line and the free agent market still stinks because Albert Pujols is still getting. And all those Angels players are still getting tens of millions of dollars from it. That would be just as bad for the union from their perspective.
Yeah, but the union only cares that they somehow get through this, avoiding a cap. And by the way, if they do shut down baseball, the owners need to just go the whole way and go for the salary cap. I mean, you might as well. You're already shut down. Tell the players they're not coming back until they agree to a cap. Simple as that. Make it fair.